Welcome back to another episode of the Hearse Chaser podcast show. I'm your host, attorney Stephen McClelland, and today we're talking about estate planning attorneys and financial advisors. We're talking about the pros, the benefits of having two sets of eyes helping you make the best for your estate plan. Talk about some of the pitfalls of not having a good team surrounding you and how specifically we are very different in our approach to helping our clients. So hopefully this will kind of help set the stage for not only how we work together, but if you don't have one, to encourage you to get a financial advisor. Welcome back to another episode of the Hearse Chaser podcast show.
You're listening to the Hearse Chaser podcast show. Here's your host, Stephen McClelland.
All right, welcome back. And I truly believe that financial advisors and estate planning attorneys live in very, very different worlds. And when those worlds come together and clients are at the center stage, we can really help have a lot of eyes and a lot of focus to make sure the estate planning goes exactly the way it goes. I will say from the very beginning, I will not hide the ball here. I will tell you that when clients have financial advisors, it helps us immensely setting up an estate plan. Oftentimes, when clients don't have a financial advisor and they're doing it themselves, there's many things that have to be done for consistency, right? We want to get consistency. If they have a plan where they want to divide everything 50-50, we got to make sure that all the assets are set up properly. And I'll tell you, just having a financial advisor together helps immensely. But we have very different focuses when it comes to our clients and their money. And this is probably the best way to think of it. Financial advisors guide the what and the how of wealth building. Okay, the what and how of wealth building. As an estate planning attorney, we handle the when and who of distribution. So oftentimes I will say this. The estate plan, when the clients pass, what often happens is the children will call my office. This is kind of when I took over for my partner who had practiced about 30 years before me doing estate planning. I kept his phone number. So I've had the children, sometimes grandchildren of estate plans, call my office and say, "Hey, I've got this trust, these documents. What does it mean? What do I do?" And in many cases, I can walk them through that process in about a 15-30-minute phone call. And so it's very, very simple in terms of who gets what and when they get it. Now, what's not simple is sometimes there's forms that have to be filled out. And there are contacts that need to be made. And here is where I say these words, and I think they're very true. Financial advisors really are worth every penny when you pass, because I think they do more work than the attorney does to make sure that all the forms are filled out, paperwork is completed. So I often say that with attorneys, a lot of people will come see us once to do an estate plan. They'll do some tweaking. A lot of times the financial advisor, I think, has a longer relationship with the client and with the families. And I'll be honest, I am a little jealous about that. I wish I had that, but typically that's not how it works. The financial advisor, they are often compensated for keeping up with clients and telling them about market changes and advising them and helping them. The financial model isn't there for the attorneys. It's just a different world. And if I could do it over again, I kind of would like that ongoing relationship, to know the family, They do an exceptional job of really being there for the family when it comes to like the hard times, and they celebrate some of those moments. I kind of miss out on those. I think that's kind of the nature of things. We've had some clients that have been on a maintenance plan where they'll reach out to us once a year. And I've always enjoyed that connection and that refreshing of their estate plan and looking at it again and saying, is this matching what's going on in your life? But financial advisors really have sort of a front row view to the things that are going on in the lives of their clients. So I am a little jealous about that. But when you put a financial advisor and an estate planning attorney together, we can really look at it from two different perspectives, the what and the how versus the when and the who. What I want to say as we're thinking about this, I just want to say kind of what's out there in the world and tell you like my perspective on things. I think that estate planning attorneys and financial advisors should be separate, okay? Now I have known that some financial institutions may have, I often see estate planning as sort of kind of get people in the door for financial advising. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, some of them, I've heard of arrangements where an attorney will do estate planning, and what happens to be true, I think this is true, that when it comes to estate planning, I think clients tell us everything. I think the idea of attorney-client privilege is very strong. People they tell us everything because they want to make sure everything goes where they want it to. When clients will talk to their financial advisor, sometimes they'll only tell them about a little bit of something. Like they just prove to me that you can manage this amount of money. I may give you some more, but they might hold back some of the things from that financial advisor. And sometimes it's just the financial advisor may ask, but they can't really do anything about it, right? The financial advisor can't draft a deed, for example. They can't draft a trust. They can't do powers of attorney. And some of it comes into play with just conflicts of interest, right? They would have this dual relationship as the estate planning attorney and financial advisor, and they can do that in some way. I just like the separation, because when clients ask me financial advising things, I say, well, that's beyond my scope. That's not what I do, and I haven't really talked to you about your risk tolerance or the diversification of your assets. So it's really someone to talk to, and how you currently have things set up. It may need to tweak based on your age and based on the market and a whole host of things. And that's really where financial advisors that's their area specialty. I would never tell a client, oh, you shouldn't invest in that, or you have too much exposure to these markets, or that's not my role. I think that's inappropriate for an estate planning attorney to qualify, because I don't know the entire circumstances. They're the professional that is in that realm. And it goes the other way is if a financial advisor, and some have said this, I've heard this from clients, a financial advisor has told a family, oh, you don't need to get an estate planning attorney. You can just get those documents online, or I don't think you have enough to worry about. And I think that's a little bit of an overstep, right? Because, well, without really sitting down for that purpose, I don't know that that financial advisor can really make that call, or that insurance agent, right? Saying, oh, you don't need such and such. I feel like we should kind of stay in our lanes and make sure that we are saying what we are, and that is, I'm an estate planning and elder law attorney. I'm not a financial advisor. Now, there are some who do more than one thing. And so the question I have for them is, when you decide to go to a conference, what kind of conference do you decide to go to? Do you decide to go to the estate planning conference, or do you decide to go to the financial advising conference? And let me just say that some of the things I'm saying here are just opinion, okay? And so it's not like I'm saying you can't be both, right? But I'm just saying you're going to go to a conference and make a decision, and there might be some overlap because I've gone to plenty of estate planning seminars where they dive into things related to accounting and taxes and mention things about financial advising, but mostly just to make me aware of things. They're not saying, well, now you have the ability to go out and advise people on those things. But I make a decision, and most, if not all, the conferences I go to are related to estate planning. That's what my practice is. I feel like that's what I can focus on. And if there are a lot of it, maybe there are just a lot smarter attorneys out there and financial, they can do it all. But I've just generally found that go to someone who's dedicating their life to knowing something to the best of their ability and to the exclusion of all is kind of my thought.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hearse Chaser podcast show. Our mission is to be your first choice for last wishes. Want to dive deeper? Join us over at the Hearse Chaser Academy, where we've created 8 on-demand courses for each stage of life. From young adulthood to retirement, navigating separation or blended families, and everything in between, we help you plan for the future, no matter where you're at. Now stay with us as the ride continues on the Hearse Chaser podcast show.
Okay, so the financial advisor, they're focusing on growing, managing the wealth, intentionally, helping folks make good habits of things. Often a year-by-year relationship. They kind of focus on taxes. I think sometimes people get their best tax advice information from the financial advisors. A lot of times, the CPAs, they're the missing component, I think. If there's a table of advisors and you got financial advisor, the insurance agent, CPA. CPAs are so busy. They're just hard to get to the table to help advise people about what they do. So a lot of people, I think, rely on the financial advisors on that. And I will tell you from my experience, the clients that I see that don't have financial advisors, often you can just kind of tell their uneasiness when it comes to taxes, or they haven't, they're missing something there. And you can kind of tell. That's not always the case with everybody, but I think in some ways they often ask me more questions. Like, I don't normally get that from clients that have financial advisors. And I'm treading this probably podcast is more challenging than others because I'm kind of talking about things that affect other professionals. I'm just trying to give you my perspective on how we kind of work and navigate together to help clients, and some things to be mindful of and watch. So they want to ensure that the finances are evolve with life changes. When you retire, like if you have a medical event in your 60s, you can't work, well, that's going to change your retirement goals. So they're always changing. They're always reassessing what are your goals. Now, one thing I love about financial advisors is that they help protect against elder abuse and fraud. This is very important because a lot of times if you call your financial advisors and you do an unusual purchase, okay, an unusual purchase that's a lot of money, they'll say, well, Miss Smith, that seems unusual. Is that okay? And that's something that financial advisors and attorneys work on together. A lot of times there might be a question of it, and that's interesting about attorneys because the rules for attorney-client privilege actually says that we as attorneys can break attorney-client privilege to protect our client. If we believe that they're being harmed to some degree, there are things that I can do, like go tell a judge, hey, judge, things are happening here that aren't right. I need you to appoint somebody to be in that area. And that's something I take very serious to prevent people who are susceptible to things or get older or have memory issues, that they're being taken care of. That's a very strong thing that we do. And sometimes the attorney is in the best place to provide that protection through the courts than a financial advisor. So it's kind of It's a very interesting thing for attorneys to have that right. The law says that we can do that. As an attorney, we're kind of focused on making sure that the legal documents are correct and the planning is correct around that. We want to make sure that beneficiaries are correct and, importantly, consistent. Okay, I have seen situations where life insurance went to ex-spouses because nobody ever told the decedent you need to update your beneficiaries. And here's the thing. I'll be honest, a lot of people often don't even know what they have. They'll say, well, I don't know what I have. Or they forget about assets. And a wonderful thing, financial advisors, I think, do a great job of writing down the assets. We in our firm make sure we know where things are because we might be the only person that person has ever told where, oh, by the way, I have this other bank account in some other county. And we might be the only person they told. So consistency is very important. When it comes to life insurance, I think financial advisors do a very good job of saying, hey, I think you might need a little bit more because your assets have grown now. The elder law inside of me, I think where financial advising and elder law like comes right together is when we talk about asset protection related to the nursing home. Long-term care, can you get long-term care? Can you qualify for it? Are there other ways, like under elder law, what we do to protect assets? Are there things that we can do to protect those assets? So there's kind of different, we kind of talk about that cost. And that nursing home cost is a big, scary number at like 8, 9, 10,000, depending on what state you are, a month. That's a lot of money. So we talk about how we can protect that. One thing that's very important is talking about consistency related to the people you trust. So if you just had a financial advisor and you have an authorization at that advisor's office, well, that doesn't also apply to your bank. That doesn't also apply in other areas. So having a financial power of attorney is nice because it affects all of the assets. Okay, it's not just naming the child that you trust to handle the advising financial advisor assets, but banks and everything. So that consistency really, really does matter. So financial advisors, they're building that future. The estate planning attorney is protecting it and passing it on. And in my opinion, that financial advisor can really help disperse those funds where they are supposed to go. Okay, they do a very good job of building that up, and we do a very good job of making sure it goes where it's supposed to and when it's supposed to go to them. Okay, so I truly believe, kind of wrapping it up, is that just be cautious if somebody says they do it all. You know, they can be a jack of all trades and master of none. Right? I really feel like you focus on one thing. I also like it to be two separate entities. There are some entities, and I'm sure they do a good job, where you got the financial advisor and the lawyer under the same umbrella. I think that's good, but I also think it's good to have fresh eyes, a different firm, different perspective. Working with multiple financial advisors, it allows us to see things that we wouldn't see if we just had the same conversations every day with the same advisor. And I think it helps having different perspectives on things. And so that I think helps immensely. We all have unique insights. Sometimes people will say things in my office in an estate planning context where they say some one word or one phrase, or sometimes it is a look. It's not even a word, but I'll see a husband or a wife look at each other in a way, and I'm thinking, what's that all about? And it comes out, and we talk about it, and turns out there's some significant concerns about their child's spouse and their child's spouse controlling them. And so it comes into a discussion about how we should handle that. Are we concerned about that son-in-law or daughter-in-law changing the whole estate plan or coming into things and exerting too much control over the situation where they shouldn't? I hope this has helped. I certainly would never take a position that nobody should have a financial advisor. You should at least talk to them and see how they can help. It's sort of the clients are experts when it comes to their families and what they want and what they know, and we are the experts when it comes to the documents, the planning things that you can do. And so you should always look at a meeting with the financial advisor or with the estate planning attorney as it's two experts getting together. I'm not talking about the financial advisor expert, the estate planning expert, but you're the expert on your family and we're the expert on estate planning. And together we're crafting a plan and talking about those things. So you should never feel like there's this imbalance, because sometimes it's just a word or a phrase or something that was said by the financial advisor that said, I think you need to go talk to an estate planning attorney. Or sometimes we'll say, well, I really think it would help you to consolidate. You have 6 bank accounts, you have assets in 4 different places, and that's fine. Totally fine for 65, 70, early 70s, but there will be a time when you don't want to have 4 financial advisors or assets in 4 different places. You will want to consolidate. And I think one of the most important things, and this is what I will close, is just the ability to sit in front of a real person who can see those expressions, who can have those conversations, and having that ability with your financial advisor who knows you, who has lived through some of your hard times, and your best times, the good markets and bad markets, is very, very helpful. And oftentimes, a good financial advisor will often say, you need to talk to the estate planning attorney to make sure it goes exactly the way you want to. And likewise, we say you need to talk to them to make sure you're getting the most out of your money, the most out of your situation. And so you get that opinion, you get that advice. It's just a lot of times you just need experts in your life. And I'll say this in closing. We are all smart in our own ways. You should never feel intimidated. I had my car recently fixed. And the guy who fixed my car, genius. How they know how to fix cars, it blows my mind. To me, it might as well be advanced calculus. It may be a physics problem. I don't get it. I don't understand it. We are all smart. And if you ever feel like you're talking to an advisor who doesn't help explain things, they aren't a good educator, I think you got to go somewhere where they can talk and explain things and you connect. That's probably the most important thing, is having someone that you trust, that listens just as well as they speak. Because oftentimes I learn more by listening than when I'm talking. In fact, I only learn things when I'm listening and not talking. That was something Larry King said. And you can really help a client by listening. And I think both professions do a great job listening. But if you ever feel like they don't, you got to make sure that you have someone that helps along the way. So thanks for joining along on a special episode of the Hearse Chaser podcast show. Hope you have a great rest of your ride and great rest of your day.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Hearse Chaser podcast show. Please remember, you can't outrun a hearse, but you can leave your family with a smooth ride.